We are here.
We are here. Hi, everybody.
I'm Michael.
And I am Jamie, and this is Two of Wands. Considering we're doing justice, I almost said Two of Swords. But yes. So how are you doing, Mike?
I am doing good.
I haven't even seen you this week. Doing well.
Yeah.
You had a good week and everything?
I did. The holidays
were
upon us. Did you have a good Yule?
I had a great Yule. Got some great new cards.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Got some great new cards. Got a really cool book. Did my little videos on the book.
Excellent.
I know. So we have today
Justice. Number 8.
And justice for all.
Truth.
Actually,
justice.
It's a good Metallica album too.
Truth, justice, and the Tarot way.
Yes. So, okay. Oh, here's a little trivia. Anybody know what this is? Who that is? I love Dark Shadows. Anyway, and this character here is the one that got me to buy the 1JJ Swiss Tarot. That's the one that they used on Dark Shadows. Anyway, I didn't realize I was advertising for Dark Shadows as I was
there's worse things to advertise
I know,
for.
that's just funny.
I always think of, my name is Victoria Winters.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Yes.
So, we are doing Dark Shadows.
No, we're doing Justice.
Okay, we're going to do Justice.
Which is number 8.
So...
All right. Or is it?
Number 8.
Or is it?
Share with us.
Well, actually...
Yes.
Actually, the first reference puts it at number 20.
Yes, you are correct. Go for it.
In the late 15th century, that we found this manuscript that there was this sermon against gambling, and he's I know, the horrors, and in it he was referencing this game of Taroshi, yes, and he lays out the numbers of the cards, and Justice comes in at number 20, which is unusual, but that was our earliest reference to
Obviously, he hadn't played the game.
Well, or the cards,
or because he was a justice and he was writing this, he trumps everybody.
Possibly, or most likely the card numbers were more fluid in the earliest days.
Speculation. No, but actually, since they weren't labeled, they probably were.
Exactly. That's my speculation.
Okay, then I'll go with your speculation.
But then, in Ferrara, northeast Italy, judgment comes in after the last judgment, because first there is justice administered by. First there's the last judgment, and then justice is administered. So it's first you're judged by God, and then Saint Michael, not the Lady Justice,
right,
but Saint Michael administers the justice.
Okay.
But that's
now, where's that? Okay, I didn't see that one, but that's cool, and I can absolutely see that, because I know that. Obviously, Saint Michael, because he's got his sword, and he is
the administrator.
He is judge, jury, and executioner.
all rolled in one.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. Tell me about that one.
So that's according to one of my references there. That was in northeast Italy, in Ferrara. It was where that was happening.
Do you happen to know what that reference is? Because I love reference. You know I love references, and you know I'm always going to ask about references. But now that you've said that, I'm going to look it up, because that is really cool.
It is.
That's a cool fact.
It is fun. But Justice became very popular with Milan and in the north. It placed it at number 8, and that became kind of
the thing.
Exactly.
Right.
And so everybody did number 8, or after a while, it 8 solidified.
Yeah, I didn't pull out the Atella deck, but didn't he make it like 9?
There's some variations.
Yeah.
But it's
but it does move.
I think
yes.
I'm pretty sure that Atella kept it 8 though. Do I have?
You know what? Because it's.
I'm pretty sure the only one that deviated once it settled on 8.
Yeah.
Was the Golden Dawn.
Golden Dawn.
They switched it. And why did they switch it, Jamie?
Well, they switched it because did you know that... I'll come down here. Did you know that there was a line in there? So obviously, they figured that the original cards
Leo?
and the people who created it was a blind.
Well,
They thought it was a blind, and that they were smart enough to know that
They figured
card,
it out.
since it was Leo, because of the astrological sign would be there.
Must be.
Must be. And so that means that Libra, because we have scales, then we
We'll
must
flip it
move
with
all
that.
the way up here. Yeah. So,
Well, you know.
so they knew things.
Well, I think it was more of like let's associate these with the zodiac signs.
And not care.
Well, they did care. But
He
then,
moved it.
Well, there's two that didn't fit, and so they're like,
Yeah.
Well, happenstance has it that the two that don't fit should be switched, and then everything would fit. So it's
Right.
and then there's a lion for Leo. There's the scales for Justice. It has to be this way.
Right.
And so they took liberties because it made sense and it fit when they were forcing the
Right.
zodiac into the major arcana. Now, there's the Minchiati deck, however, that had the zodiac cards as their own cards. So it wasn't the.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't the actual.
And it's a whole separate. It's pretty much almost like a totally separate deck.
Well, it is separate, but it was developed at the same time as the tarot.
Yes.
And
Well, again.
and very popular, and there were some differences. So it had a little bit of a different order, but interestingly enough, Justice was number 8 in the Minchiati. It was. They also had all 7 of the virtues. So 6 is temperance, 7 is fortitude,
Yeah.
8 is justice, then 16 is hope, 17 is prudence, 18 is faith, and 19 is charity.
Right.
So you've got all 7 of them, you know, and when the tarot is being developed, if you go back to the first tarot cards that we have, the Sforza, Visconti Sforza, that included those additional theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity. So there's possibilities that when the early forms of the tarot before it solidified into what the sequence and cards that we know, it had additional cards like the Minchiati, speculation, but I mean the Visconti giving weight to that speculation.
Right.
And
the card makers are also going to make this decision whether they're going to include those or not.
Sure.
And the other thing is that there's also the quote-unquote speculation because, including all those virtues for a bunch of gamblers and things like that, it's like, well, you know what, these people here, we don't need to include all these for these because this is a game of chance or a game, to be played. And so, yeah, they knew that, one of the speculations that they just dumped them, didn't need, who needs virtue when you have other cool cards?
Well, I mean, in that frame of logic, you could say that who needs any of the major arcana? You can play poker with just the minors, right?
Right.
So I think there's a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
As a speculation.
Absolutely. Yeah, and speculation is fun.
So by the way, because I wasn't going to pull out the Atella because it's like the Minchiati. It's one of those things where it's not going along with the regular deck and etc. like that. But yes, it's number 9.
It is number 9. Oh, okay, so that's a little different too.
Yeah, and she's so maidenly. Look at her.
The Atelier definitely did his own thing. There are a lot of the cards. He even had a card named after himself, I think. In the deck, I mean, he definitely was an interesting.
No ego here. Yeah,
he was an interesting.
He was absolutely about the ego.
but yeah, let's go back and talk about the justice that how we know it, and then I can go into the justice how I know it.
So,
But do you want to drop in some of your notes here?
Well, what is justice? What's the definition of justice?
So that depends on a lot of different things.
Yep.
Well, you start us off. I'll tell you what I think.
What about the Plato version?
Okay, all right. Let's start with that. Sure.
Okay, so Plato says justice was seen as reflecting the good. And so Platonic thought was a big deal in the Renaissance and in the Middle Ages as it was coming out. So that's what Plato thought.
Absolutely, yeah. One of those virtues, the what's it called? The justice is one of the cardinal virtues. So one of 4.
So, but when we think about it, justice seen as reflecting the good, is that reality?
It's a little more complicated than that.
That's where Hobbes comes along.
Right? Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin and Hobbes. Whatever societal laws dictate, just is an application of the law. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we see it.
Right.
So based on how you look at it,
there's various forms, right?
Right. So Platonic, when they're looking at it, they're seeing, because also we have to remember there's a religious context here.
Sure.
And so they're, it makes me wonder, were they going with the Platonic, which, there's a lot of the church leaders that follow the Platonic thought, and they wanted people to do what was good.
What's good?
Which included giving to the church.
What is good, what is just.
What gets the most for the church.
But justice, as we know, isn't always just. And there's some hints of that.
Oh yeah, we're both touching on that. Okay, go for it.
There's some hints.
Go for it.
So the knee.
Wait for it, people. Yes.
There's a knee that's tipping the scale there.
I think we need to tell people here. Let me bring this back here because
yeah.
we need to preface something.
Okay.
Is that Michael and I always tell this story, but our significant others, we would get together and we would have dinner and we would talk hours and hours and hours about the tarot. And that's how the Two of Wands developed, because we decided that it's like, we're not, Michael's creating a deck. And so we talk about all these. And so we decided we are not going to talk at all until we get in front of a camera once a week, and then we'll just dump it all out. So that's why we're both excited, because we haven't talked. And now he's going on this great little factoid here. Yeah. And so I don't know what he's going to say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say.
Okay, you go ahead.
But no. You go ahead. You are right on the button with it.
These aren't. These aren't too unknown to most people. That have done study of the tarot, but. Even back in the first incarnation of the card that we, the earliest cards that we have, there's some tip-offs that justice is not always just. Is the sword always straight up, or is it on an angle? For her? Well, let's focus on that so that people understand what that means. Right.
And so, because justice is supposed to be on the straight and narrow, if you want to look at it that way.
Yep.
And it's strong. Why would she have this leaning over unless she has her own opinion? When it's leaning, it means we're getting ready to strike. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So she's got this leaning. She has already got an opinion, is what we are looking at here. And then you can see the horse on top that's going to enact this justice.
Exactly. That's like the police force right there. She says what's going to happen, and he goes out and makes it so.
Okay. So keep going.
All right. So the
Oh, and if people don't know, this is the Visconti. This is considered to be the first tarot deck.
Yeah,
it's from the 14th century.
Not the first deck.
Not deck. Well,
first cards
first
of
for the game.
Deck.
Yes, the first that was created for the. This is the original trumps.
Well, it is the first, as I understand it is the first examples of cards that we have in existence that of the tarot. Now, there might have been other ones that were lost to history. But this is the first examples that the oldest cards.
I meant to look this up last time, because if I remember correctly when reading about it, that the game was actually, the trumps were added for the Visconti family, and that the secretary, this dude went ahead and actually created the trumps to add as a fifth suit.
Speculation.
Because prior to the
Speculation.
No. Okay, that's my homework.
Hey,
because I've got it in here.
Hey, is that Joshy? Welcome to the feed. But yeah, we're just two guys talking about the tarot, and today's is Justice.
Yep.
But sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, really. So anyway, let's not get deep.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
We won't deep dive into that, but regardless of that, it's definitely an early version of one of the earliest versions of the tarot, and she is holding that sword to the side. So is it straight up and narrow?
I'm still going to say that I think it is the first, and I need to look that up. So I'm going to throw that out there, but I will look it up.
The first, it's definitely not the first full deck.
It's the first full.
So the first full deck that we have would be the Solavuska.
But that is not the same.
That's a full deck. So the Visconti.
Anyway, we'll I will footnote it. I will have.
Okay.
I will put it in the.
The Visconti actually has the first examples of cards. Of cards.
Okay.
But they were not a full deck. Almost. But there was definitely missing cards.
Okay.
Anyway, going on. The sword points up, and that's it's that to separate things, to cut away what doesn't need to be cut.
Yep.
Or doesn't need to be there. It's
well, the sword is always, even with the pips, it represents clear thinking.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the basic thing, is that clear thinking. No value judgments. You're seeing things clearly.
Yeah, and you're administrating justice swiftly and with finality, and held upright means you have the discerning mind. The double blade means we don't always get what we want, but
because it cuts both ways.
Exactly. But we do get what we deserve.
Yep.
So it's that, and the scales usually mean that the balance of logic and intuition, but when you go into the Marseille deck, you'll notice that knee bumping the scale, because sometimes it's more about pleasing the court than it is.
So I've got both the Noble, which is the older one.
Yep.
And what year was the Noble? I was going to look that up.
Noble is, I got it right here.
Good.
So
I have it here, the Noble.
It's 17th century, 1650.
1650, okay.
It's the earliest still existing complete deck.
And then the Conover, went ahead and copied that.
So a century later, yep.
So it looks like she's bumping it with her knee, or she's tipping it with her elbow.
Either way, yeah, exactly.
Either way, but the scales are not balanced here.
Something's going on, and that again goes back to the whole of justice is not always just. Sometimes it's about pleasing the court is more important, or keeping order is more important than doing what is always.
Well, we've defined the sword, and now the swords are straight up and down. We've defined the swords as clear-sightedness and punishment.
Right.
Okay. So then what is the definition of the scales? What is the scales? And we haven't touched on the Egyptian part, but I'm not even talking about that yet.
Yeah. And I mean, and I can go into further with the whole idea of weighing those two things, but it's logic, intuition, balanced, or is it, or it could be other things, depending on
the way that I like the way that I think it was the J.M. David had it was because he was looking at some historical context, and the scales being in her left intuitive hand shows intuition must balance logic and are a symbol of her impartiality.
Exactly.
Or lack of impartiality because of this. Right.
And which is which? We have to discern and figure that out. But yeah, the idea, the goal is to overcome the mental and emotional prejudice and distinguish between the opposites.
Right.
Yeah. But sometimes the goal isn't met.
Right. So
Sometimes the card is reversed.
right, and I'm sure you have something. So if we go even further back, so that we can understand
Yes.
what they're thinking back in the 14th century, as they're looking at these and beyond that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you probably know who they were modeling. Who the original ones were.
Right.
The Greeks.
Right. Well, yeah, sure. And going back to the earliest full deck that we had that I mentioned earlier, the Solabuska one, this card is a very different Justice. It doesn't have the scales and the sword and Lady Justice at all. It's actually got Emperor Nero on it. Here, can I put it in front of your feeds too?
Yeah. Just drop it right there.
Okay, there it is. So this one is Roman Emperor Nero, who was this tyrant of a ruler, and he sets fire to Rome in 64 CE. But here he is.
Well, it's labeled. Okay, so we're talking to Solabuska, and the reason why I don't jump to it because it's not a card that some people will just read with them just for the fun of it, but it's not a card that I would read with. It's not a card that the majority of people would. So, are you sure that 8 means justice?
I'm absolutely sure, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
This emperor, he's a tyrant, and you see him here, and he is tearing this child apart before burning him, and the staff here is actually a child's toy. It's like these that they used to bury the children, infants with as well. It's a pretty gruesome card, but the whole idea is that he is this horrible tyrant emperor, but the divine karma will inevitably come to those who lack basic human compassion, who lacks any heart.
So who came up with... Okay, so this card was not originally used for divination.
Divination, as far as we know.
So where are we getting where are we pulling these definitions from?
So the Solabuska cards were, as you can see, they're very much linked to historical figures. And
history. It's full of historical figures.
Absolutely. And but they do relate to the tarot, and many have connected them and explained why. And the book that came with this deck explains those.
I would want to actually see what the footnotes are on that book, because
Absolutely.
It would have to be, what we're hearing here is 20th century definitions of somebody looking at the card and saying, okay, let's make a correspondence here.
Well, it could be, or maybe everybody knew this at the time and it didn't need explaining.
No, because I don't know, but I've read a lot of history. I love history. I love history and
we both do.
Right, and at no point have I ever seen Nero as being seen as justice, even though some people say he gets a short shift. He's not as bad as.
Well, I've got a book for you, because he's definitely.
But I know. But also, he was also a. He was a scapegoat for the Christians.
That's
because
true.
he was throwing the Christians to the lions. He was doing this. So most of our. Now, I'm not saying that he was a good person at all. I have no clue. But there's also, when reading in a historical context, the history is written by the victors.
That's
and
true.
Nero tortured.
Yeah.
And killed as many Christians as he could.
But he wasn't the. And you would say that he was the victor, but history has judged him, and so
Christians have written about him to judge him.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't get too caught up in that. But what I'm saying is that I truly believe, as we're sitting here, any definitions that we're placing on this card would be 20th century.
Well, I'm gonna go and disagree with you on that one,
okay.
I'll give you some books to read on that one.
Okay, who used these cards in the 19th century for divination?
That has not been proven. That's all speculation. Anything before the 18th century, even the tarot wasn't used for.
Keep in mind though that this was a limited card. That this was not mass produced at all.
That is.
This was in a museum, which means that the original person who may have had them would have had to have been the one to read the tarot with these, or somebody who had a and I'm just doing a logical leap
Yeah,
here. There was
throwing out
somebody in the
ideas.
20th
Yeah.
century who said, okay, now we need to come up with a definition for these.
It's possible, yeah.
So-
But like before the 18th century, before the 18th century with de Gebelin and Atelier.
Yep.
We have no proof that even the tarot is used for divination.
Other than the fact that he does mention, and I do like the idea that we're drifting off.
Yeah, we are. Anyway, justice is interpreted in very differently in a way, but but I like the way that it is relating to karma, in that every action has a reaction, and so although this is a horrible card, the depiction here, the idea is that
Nero gets his own?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Oh, and I just had a little note here. Somebody chopped in, what's divination? And that means when you're reading cards for fortunes, when you're
foretelling,
when you're foretelling
the future.
Exactly. So
the future.
as opposed to playing a game, which is what the tarot cards were originally used for, was just playing a game of one card trumping the other, and it was a gambling game. Then later it became what we all know it for, which is divining futures, divination.
Yep.
Okay, going back to the whole idea of karma. Which,
Boy, we went on a tangent.
I know. It's fun, right?
Yes. Okay, so you're saying karma. Now, in karma,
Yeah.
I would go more with the Wheel of Fortune and 10, but go ahead.
But it could be.
And are you reflecting that because of what your feeling is with the Solabuska?
No, I'm talking about a interpretation of justice as being karmic justice. Justice, can take many forms.
And I would see that as judgment also.
It's related.
So justice I see as just that being judged. And when people are reading the tarot, they say it can mean a lawsuit, it can mean all this other stuff.
Right.
But for me, when I see justice, it's seeing a situation clearly, weighing it out, making sure your emotions are not tipping the scales.
True, but judgment is more of like.
But I'm not seeing it as karma because.
So the difference that I see between the two is judgment is a person looking at a situation and saying, I think that this is good. I think that is bad. I'm judging you for it. I'll make you famous or infamous because I'm judging you. Whereas justice is how the universe balances itself. So, and it's you're gonna get justice because of karma.
Okay, so that's absolutely
this karmic justice.
So because as the fool is traveling along, so the fool is now we're at the point when we start moving past love, we get to the chick. We're starting to learn our moral compass,
right,
as we go along. So we're still grounded in reality. Justice is a man-made concept.
When
you move into the Wheel of Fortune, when you move into judgment, now you're getting into the cosmic, into the beyond.
Absolutely.
But justice 100% is a man-made concept.
In that way of thinking, absolutely agree. So in the Fool's Journey, where you're doing it step by step, it would fit like that way, and I completely agree with it being a man-made idea, that kind of thing. But if you're not thinking of it in a step-by-step progression, like a Trump game, but if you're thinking of it more like I do, the magician has a lot more power than just the bumbling juggler, right?
Yep.
So if you're thinking of it in that way of thought, then justice takes on a whole deeper level.
And I'm not saying, and you are not wrong.
Thank you.
A lot of times, again, I play the devil's advocate.
We're both right.
But
we're both right.
My goal is to understand the cards the way that somebody in the 16th, 15th century would have seen them.
Sure.
And that's how I want to read. And again, so that I'm not taking something that somebody said in the 17th century, and then somebody in the 18th century read that and said, oh, well, I'm going to add to that. And so by the time we get to the 21st century, we forgot the original meaning.
But what I like to say is that it's not that we forgot the original meaning, but we have two meanings now. And so it's like
I understand what you're saying.
For me, I can flip back and forth between the two depending on the reading and see which one.
I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But I just want, I want my foundation to be based on facts.
And facts are so hard with the tarot.
Well, actually, it's very well documented in a lot of ways. And plus, we know how people felt about justice in the 15th century.
Sure.
We have plenty of writing about that.
Sure.
Which may be why, the scales are tipped.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of controversy over justice.
So anyway, keep going. So where were we at with it?
Okay, so let me go back to. So speaking of going back in time to early decks, a deck I'm sure you've heard, the so-called Charles VI.
Yes.
The Gringonar.
How is that pronounced? I am going to look that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because every time I try to say that card, I just go with, well, let's just call it the Charles.
Charles VI, right? So both are...
I mutilated that on another video, and I'm like, you know what? That's the last time I'm going to say that.
Let's just call it the Charles VI. And we're not even sure that Charles VI, it was created for him, because the reference is that these cards were created for him, for his whimsical. He was going crazy, and they associate this deck with that. But then other experts are saying no, actually that deck came out later. I've got it right here. So
you've got the Charles VI.
So this is the so-called Charles VI deck.
I know this book has got it.
Absolutely. So it's in. So there's a reference in 1392 to it being a gift for the king, but was probably lost. This deck is actually probably the 15th century Venetian origin. However,
so this is the card that he's referencing right here.
Correct, and this one.
Yeah, that's what I pointed.
Yeah, and
that's 15th century.
That's what most scholars think is 15th century Venetian origin, but they were attributing it to earlier than that, into this reference in 1392. But that's why they call it the so-called Charles VI, because it probably wasn't.
Right.
But anyway, but the thing about this deck, you notice her halo here. Mm-hmm. So the halo is a polygonal halo. It identifies her as one of the 7 virtues. And
I've also heard that it might be just a headdress. But I hear what you're saying, so I'm going to throw that out.
Okay, all right. Well, there's different interpretations, but they used to differentiate in art between sanctified halo, which is like heavenly saint kind of thing, and the allegorical halo, which is one of the virtues. And her being one of the 7 virtues, she's got it. Now, the other cards that are the virtues in that Charles VI deck, and I was also in the Rosenwald deck, another early deck, they have these polygonal halos for just the virtues. You'll see them, all the virtues.
Oh, I've heard about that. I've heard about the virtue. Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that's why they pull in, and they're still speculating on.
It's all speculation.
Maybe like the hangman became prudent.
That's a lot of speculation.
Yeah, we have a lot of speculation and things like that. Yes. So, so what you're saying is that because of the halo,
we know it identifies her as one of the 7 virtues, and so we've got.
But justice is a virtue.
Exactly, it is one of the 7 virtues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know which one you were going to talk about.
Yeah, so justice is one of the 4 cardinal virtues, but it's one of the 7 virtues that if you include the 3 extra theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity, it goes to 7. But again, in the Minchiate deck, you've got all 7 represented.
Right.
And here is the Minchiate's version of Justice. It's a little interesting. She does come in 7th, like I was saying earlier, but look how the scales and the sword are reversed. It's one of the few decks that I've seen that where she's holding the scales with her other arm. But yeah, that's from the Minchiate deck.
With her non-dominant.
With her non-dominant hand. Exactly.
Or I'm sorry, with the dominant hand. With the dominant hand, the sword.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's because the plate is reversed?
You would think that, but then there's the Roman numerals here they obviously got right.
Right, but that might be a separate plate because each color was a different plate.
But you would think that the black though would be part of that.
I don't know. So
yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
No, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyway. Yeah, I love
stuff.
bringing it back to the early roots.
Oh, but.
Yes.
Okay, so now since you're doing that, since Themis is Justice from the Petite Oracle 1807. So
okay, we're jumping forward again. Okay.
So, yeah, but I mean, so as we're talking about that, this deck here also happens to have that.
Oh, cool. Which one is that?
And I tell you, so this is my new favorite book, by the way. It's a visual archive. This is the book that I did a review of it already.
Here, hold it up for my feed there.
Okay, here we go. And this book is fabulous. It's been what I've been looking for my whole life.
Yeah, it's on my wish list now too.
And so literally this book takes some of the most important decks and puts the cards side by side.
So what is the other deck that had the...
So the other deck, the Petite Oracle, and then...
this one. It's got the scales.
Yep, the Petite Oracle. And...
From 1807, huh?
Well, the Justice and the Grandatella.
So...
Where's the... So I pulled that out. So let's see here.
Well... that's a different version. So Italia actually had a couple different decks. That's an earlier version.
And and this one right here. Oh, well, this is the two-faced. Okay, so this is a two-faced one.
That's really
Blindfolded Justice from a French deck, usually referred to as the anonymous partisan.
So it's interesting to see the blindfold come on. In the earlier decks, the blindfold was not there because you wanted a clear view of the situation. Again, pointing back to that, justice might not always be fair because it's all about the orders. You want to see what's going on and tip the scale when needed. But yeah, the idea of justice being blind is a more modern.
Right. That's after the 15th century.
Yeah.
And so I figure we both go into that.
Oh,
Justice
please,
is not blind.
Yeah.
Justice needs to be able to see the situation in order to be able to respond appropriately. She's not hoodwinked or blindfolded. In the tarot, the motif became popular during the 16th century, yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's the whole thing, is that we talk about justice being blind now.
But back then,
it's like, but then she can't see the facts. She can't see clearly.
Right. Cupid is blind because he shoots his arrow indiscriminately.
But
Justice, you want
even
wide
he
open.
cheats by looking just with one eye half the time and half the pictures.
That's true.
But it's funny that after that, in the 16th century, that people started feeling the need to make justice blind.
Right. Yeah. That's a more modern thing.
I love you, book. That book.
But do you mind if I jump ahead to Crowley, my favorite?
Oh my God. Let me see. Was there anything else that we needed here? So we got that. She's got wings.
Oh yes, let's talk about the wings. So yeah, so there's this curtain that separates her from what's beyond the curtain. It's a different world, so that very different than the High Priestess, which also has a curtain. So the High Priestess has a curtain, but her curtain separates her from the subconscious, whereas Justice's curtain separates her from the real world.
Well, what I was going to do is point out the Noble,
right?
Which there's people that have actually made decks where Justice has the wings,
like this one,
and yes.
Yeah. but that's because in the noble egg, if I don't mind if I just show real quick, the curtain kind of looks
like
wings.
And the converts which came along afterwards kind of fixed that.
Right, made into more of a rotunda,
Yeah.
which I love. Here's a deck that has the rotunda that just beautifully drawn, and I love how that's drawn. My tarot card will have a rotunda just like this.
Oh, that's cool.
But it got corrupted for wings for a bit, and that but yeah, that was kind of faded out and went back to the curtain with the
let's bounce back to one last thing with the history then as we move forward. So, because another thing that people always see, especially now if you're a Neil Gaiman fan, because of the ancient Egyptian culture, Met was the goddess of truth, justice, and order. When someone died, it was believed that their heart was weighed by the god Anubis against the feather that Met always wore in her hair, which was an ostrich feather. And that's going to be an important thing for you, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
That's why I wanted to bring that up. If we're going to move forward.
Okay,
ostrich feather representing truth and justice. If the person had committed a crime, their heart would be heavier than the feather, and Amit, the demon with the head of a crocodile, would eat their heart, dooming the person's soul to stay forever in the underworld and never find rest.
Something like that. Yeah, my notes here are, let me take a time out to tell you a little bit about my card, but in my so for my card, I'm having it kind of like a combination between these two, where I've got the rotunda and I've got the
here we go.
Yeah, I've got the rotunda happening, but I also have the horse in the background there from the Visconti deck. I've got as a decoration on the rotunda. So she's going to have that knight swiftly carrying out her justice, but on his shield, I'm going to have the ostrich egg to link it all together, right? The ostrich feather that from the Egyptian lore. So my notes on that is Anubis leads the soul to stand trial before Osiris, and then Maat is the daughter of Ra, and she's the wife of Thoth.
Oh.
Who's the wise scribe and the Thoth tarot of Crowley. So Matt, her name means balance, harmony, and order.
Okay.
And she's got the white ostrich feather of truth, which you weigh against the heart, and if you're at peace, your heart is light, and then you can have a good afterlife. but the ostrich egg, linking it to the ostrich feather, I thought
I totally see it.
Yeah,
I totally see it.
So it'll be a subtle thing, but it'll be there. The whole Egyptian symbology there is so deep and wonderful. And before I jump to the Crowley, just to go back to the Rider-Waite card, it's got those gray pillars again, meaning wisdom, and then also, so that's kind of linking to the High Priestess, but also of interest is one hand up, one hand down, linking her kind of to the Magician. So there's a lot of callbacks happening in the Rider-Waite version. but moving on.
Well, and one last thing.
Oh yes, please go.
Part of her clear visionness is that oftentimes we'll find the third eye.
Yes,
People have you'll see a third eye in some of the decks.
Yes, the jewel on her crown. Some would say is a third eye. Right. And
which is, again, being able to see through your soul.
Exactly. And that's the whole important thing is that feminine subconscious energy is enabling her to come to the right decision when administering justice. And that's leading me perfectly to the Crowley deck. So Crowley's version of justice,
dun, dun, dun.
he calls adjustment, which I think is a fantastic.
Well, everybody's heard
improvement.
of, you need an attitude adjustment.
Right, and but it's but this goes back to the whole karmic idea of justice. And let's see here. Okay, so so let me go through the things that are, because this is such a very cool thing. So the blindfold comes back on, or comes on for Crowley's deck, because she is judging with her inner feminine wisdom, as opposed to the unblindfolded, sword up, cutting through things, very masculine. She's got her sword down. She's got the blindfold on, and it's this harmonious balance. Look at how the four globes that are equally balanced, as above, so below. I mean, it's all about balance. And where's the balance coming from? It's not her hand, but coming from her head, and it's this she's this inner wisdom that is keeping it all maintained, but the chains are very sensitive. It's difficult to balance and maintain. It's like that butterfly effect, where a little tip could have disastrous effects, and it's the whole idea of keeping it all in balance, in order, and that's leading back to the whole idea, the general idea of the card, which is that what was it? Order, justice, and what does Matt mean? Harmony. That's it. Harmony, balance, and order is just, it's all like
Truth, justice, order. Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, and here's another really cool thing. So the sword's pointing down, and it's that divine marriage thing again. The whole phallic planting into the yoni for that unity and harmony. And even her headdress kind of look like testicles there. It's like it's a complete phallic.
Oh my gosh, I never noticed that.
Crowley loves to throw in all the sexual stuff.
Yeah, so you can see that.
It's there, and it's pointing down because that's it's that harmonious balance with the subconscious. It's everything is as it should be. It's unity and one. And that's that karmic balance. It's not tipped either way, but she's got it all under control, and you're adjusting as you need to adjust.
Right.
For true justice is when things are in harmony.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I really, really enjoy his interpretation of that feminine power. As opposed to the masculine power that we are usually identifying with justice, and further on that point, the whole idea of karma, and you were saying how you didn't quite.
I mean, I can absolutely see again.
You can see it
again. Yeah. I mean, I can. Yes. I would not, as a general rule, it depends upon what's around it.
Sure.
But as a general rule, I would move further up the deck before I'd get to karma.
Right. But that being said, I mean, I think a lot of people misunderstand what karma really is. It's not fate. Karma is action.
Well, no, karma's definitely not fate.
Yeah.
Karma is. It is reaping what you sow.
That's a good. That's one good way to think of it. Some other ones are what you refuse to accept will continue, and wherever you go, there you are.
Well, one is Buddhist, the other one is Douglas Adams.
Sure, or Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah. That's right.
And but here's another one that I really love. When there is something wrong in your life, there's something wrong in you. So it's the whole karmic idea is there's nothing permanent. If you change your intention, if you change your self-destructive habits, you can change your future. So karma is a dynamic active force that we create for good or evil.
And I'll tell you another reason why I don't see this card as karma.
Sure.
There is only like 2 or 3 cards in this deck where the card is staring straight at you.
Yep. Right to the soul.
Right to the. But so I do. This is about judgment in the here and now. It's about. It's a human. Again, that's why I keep coming back to this.
You see it that way.
Thing.
Sure.
Yeah, because again, because I see the progression from the Fool to the World, and
sure.
I do believe, as far as how things go, that there is a progression. And because of the game of trumps simply would, a 9 trump, which would be the Hermit, would take justice. Justice would over the Chariot, because you can have all the self-will you want, but
time is gonna, time wins out. The Hermit being time. Time has the last word. You might make justice today, but even Nero gets his due in the long run.
So I don't know. Every time I say karma, it's like, okay, but not that is wrong again.
Right.
It's everybody's got an interpretation.
Sure.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So my whole idea is that it's this. It's how people treat you is their karma, and how you react is yours. And that's like a better understanding of what karma is. It's not, just people think of it as, he's got some bad karma, but it's more than that. It's you could have some good karma too. So it's very magical. It's what you will comes into fruition. So if you keep doing good things, you'll become a good person. It's karmic justice that it is that way.
Okay.
So that's my link.
Got it. Okay. So we're starting to run out of time.
Okay, sorry.
But is there something else about your deck?
Yeah, I definitely have her with the traditional sword and scales, but I like to think that of her, and I might tweak that. I might make some tweaks, because I definitely love Crowley's idea of it being more than just material justice. I like the idea of it being a spiritual justice as well. So to have both ideas present, so that you can go whichever way moves you during a reading, I think, I'll try and do something like that.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yep. So, do we want to see how it looks in a reading?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. And I'll stick with my Crowley, since I love it so much.
Okay.
And you go with something more traditional.
So, the fun part for me is that now we get to see how we would see it in a reading.
How it reacts to other cards.
Yeah. What the other cards see, and I'm going to go with the Converse.
Okay.
Just because, to me, that's one of the most... Because it's so basic, it's more expressive. It's so easy to see where the eyes are staring at you, the eyes are staring at somebody else. So,
sure.
And that's why I'm going to use that deck for this one.
Okay. You go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I'm going to do... Give me
some time to shuffle these.
Okay. So if I was using this, and I pulled this up, I would look at this and I would consider... somebody has possibly a dilemma, where they want to try and see things clearly, but, emotions are taking place. What is blocking them from seeing things clearly?
Right.
Is how I would look at this. So the left side would be the sword, the right side would be the scale. So that's how I'm going to kind of pull this up.
Okay.
I just made that up on the fly, but it's I'm sure that's the easiest. That's a million.
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay, so
Do a 3-card. Yeah.
Yep.
Do a. So the left hand is the
left hand is
the sword, and the
sword.
The right hand is the balance.
Exactly. So the left hand is the left side is being able to see things clearly.
Okay.
The right side is what's blocking that, what might be tipping that scale.
Gotcha. I like it. Okay.
So I have my 2 cards here. So, okay. So I've got the 4 of swords reversed. So we have all these swords on that side.
You're mixing decks here.
Oh, you know what? So as I'll say sometimes when I'm doing my morning meditation, when I see something, if I do something.
Sorry.
No, that's right. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. But there's times where I see cards that people don't.
Right.
I will be reading a card, and it will be totally different. So
there are no mistakes.
They're just happy accidents.
That's right.
There's a little bunny. There's a little bunny hiding behind the curtain right there. So that is interesting, and that would even add more weight to the reading if the person was in front of me. So
Sure
on the
would.
left,
It would wake them up.
Yeah. Well, they would. They might not know. So we have the 4 of swords, which is normally about taking that time that you need to rest, recuperate, mentally get yourself together. And so we see here that part of the issue would be then is that we're not getting that time. We're not taking that time to rest, to get our stuff together. And this is about time. This is about giving yourself a period where you can actually think about it. Calm meditation. So something's blocking that. And this deck here, so my Rider-Waite is 50-50 reversed or something close to that. And so on the right-hand side, we have the star. So what is the problem that we're having here then? Is that on one side, the issue is that we're not taking the time. Things are just moving too fast. You know, we're not able to stop and concentrate on it. And on the right-hand side, then, the star means hope. The star means faith. But, you know, when I see the star, and it's like if I say hope, it's like I'll always say hope and $5 might buy you a cup of coffee.
He's such a cynic.
Well, because hope and Pandora's box, why would hope, you know, Pandora lets out all the evils of the world. Why is hope?
The one thing that holds on.
Why is hope in that box with all the evils of the world?
There was a
No, hold on. I tell you what, I'm going with the story that we have
all right,
there, okay?
But
and what I'm saying is that I believe when we say this and why we say this is because you can hope for years. You know, you can hope somebody comes home, you can hope somebody comes back instead of moving on. This guy right here can't move on. This guy on the left here, he wants to rest, he wants to relax, but he can't move on. Because, you know, there's something that it could be hope or a lack of faith or a lack of belief. So if I was doing this then, again, I would say that what we need to do is figure out what it's going to take
to flip it around.
To flip this card around, to find that rest so that don't take any actions yet. Don't take any actions yet until you're able to take that minute and then see what the reality is and then turn that hope maybe into faith and then into action. Because hope is not action.
No.
Okay, so that's what we need to do, is that we need to... Well, okay. So anyway, that was a real reading. Okay.
No, that's cool. So I just wanted to show my feed real quick.
God.
Because they can't see it. So JB started out with the Marseille deck. Happenstance had it that the Rider-Waite popped up with his unshuffled deck, but we went with it, and it's awesome. But just a little side note to your understanding of the Pandora's box. It wasn't just the negative in her box. It was the positive and negative. It was gifts from the gods, and they.
Well, hold on. Before we go into all that, because I would have to research that, because it's my understanding that it was a punishment. I don't want to go into it because I don't think that's what it is, and then we'll go into a whole debate. Instead,
okay, but
that's not what it's about. Instead, let's do your reading.
I will, absolutely.
I hear what you're saying.
I just want to just put in there, and again, you can fact check me and whatever. But if you go back to the Pandora, it wasn't just negativity that was in her box. It was negative and positive, and they were all gift from the gods, because that's what Pandora's name, I think, means is gifts for the gods or something like that. But anyway. Okay. So yeah. It all escapes except for hope.
Got it.
Anyway, I only know that very well because in my deck, I am including hope as one of my cards, and I have Pandora's box included in that card.
All right, I got it. Okay.
All right.
We'll maybe put that in the footnotes after we research it.
Absolutely. Okay. So for my reading,
We'll just do it here. Yeah.
Yeah. Please move it over to there. We go.
Okay.
All right. So I'm doing sticking with the Crowley deck, and I've got his adjustment card in the middle. And we're going to do 2 cards on either side here. Let's see here. So what am I going to make these be about? She's right down the center.
She is right down the center, except, yeah. So what's interesting is that I also see the orbs at the top and the orbs that are at the bottom.
Balanced, yep.
So maybe I would reflect on the fact, if I'm looking at this card here, because that's the big difference, is that since over here, the top card is the light one, so I would say maybe that when thinking about this is the clear, because that orb almost looks clear. This is the clear side, and this is the cloudy side. So what is it that we need to see clear, and what is it that's blocking that so we're not seeing it clear?
Sure. Also in her scales here,
I see the
alpha and the omega symbol. Yep. So we got the start of the situation and the end of the situation. Maybe that could be the way to go here. Yeah, let me do that. So we'll say, so what needs adjusting, how you started out, and how it should end. I think
awesome.
That works. Okay, so let's do that. So how it's starting out is the Queen of Cups.
Okay.
And how it should end is the 8 of Swords. Interesting. Okay. And in Crowley's deck, he assigns the meaning of interference to that. So there's something that, if we need to get to that, there needs to be some kind of interference. And what could that be? And the Queen of Cups is, that's water. So it's all emotion, and it's all intuitive, but to the point of maybe being too fluid with emotion, to the point where it's hard to discern.
Well, I see the Queen as being emotionally stable. She can have a strong emotional feeling about something, a strong emotional bond, but being a queen,
right?
She also can be, she'll be clear about it. She's in control of those emotions. That's why when she's reversed, she can be one of the most jealous, and she's one of the cards you never want to see reversed, because her anger, when her cup starts
too emotional, yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. So she's got a lot of emotions, but you're right, because she is the queen. She is in control of those things. But having this as where it starts, where you're in control, and where it ends, you want to have some interference there. So maybe it's about giving up some of that control and saying, allow the interferences to come through and open your mind. It might be the lesson from this 3-card spread, is that sometimes giving up control will lead you to the interference that is important, that you need. And that, I think that works very well with the whole adjustment card, because it's about finding that peace. It's about finding that balance between extremes, where you find the most fair just truth. So that's how I'm interpreting that.
Okay.
You have
Well, I'm kind of seeing it. So here we have the scales.
Yep.
Okay. And so now we have the scales, and on one side we can see that, yes, so this emotional maturity, this caring is on one side where we're starting, but what is blocking that? So swords are mental. By the time you start going up to the eights, then and since also this is more of a Marseille style, since we're not going with the Rider Waite, so and the eights are about trying to progress forward, and it's about this potential progress, but it starts weighing on you, and so by the time you have these 8 swords just sitting there, it can pin you down. So emotionally, this is what the driving force is that, it's a strong desire for something. She has a strong feeling and and she will use that strong desire. A king may use a sword, the intellect and things like that, but a mother, you don't want to get between a mother and her child kind of thing. So when there is a strong emotional desire for something, but there is a mental constraint that is weighing her down. So maybe she knows that what she wants, there's what we want and what we need. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between the two. So maybe the scales are saying it's balancing out between that emotional desire, but knowing that there's going to be a cost, there's a weight to it, there's a mental weight to it that needs to be worked through. Right. That's kind of how I would see it.
Okay. Yeah, it was so you're going from the past to the future.
That, and also what's going on, and then what's blocking, what we need, so
you're reading it differently than I was reading it.
Well, I'm reading it based on, you can go from past to future,
right?
Because again, you have that strong emotional desire,
right?
But it's getting weighed, it's moving through the karmic card, because this adjustment for you, this is the karmic. Yeah. And so she's moving through it, and the future then potential, and hopefully she's seeing this as it's getting weighed, is that what we desire may cause emotional and mental strain in the future. And so she's got to balance this out.
That's a possibility. Or you could read it like I was reading it, where this is what you want. This is the future that you're trying to get to, and the interference is sometimes needed in order to set the scales balanced, because it's not always just so black and white. The mental must be balanced with the emotional, but you need to release some of that control in order to get to the to accept the interference, so that you can balance and have that karmic justice. And different ways of reading, but
absolutely. Yeah, so that's what's amazing. The beauty of the card. There are rules to the card, or there can be, but it's like everybody's going to pick up the book, and we all have to. It's in a different language, and so we all are going to read that language, but the interpretation
is different every time.
It's poetry.
Yes, and not only that, but like certain decks are different. Like you were reading more like Marseille or Rider Waite.
Well, when I see just straight swords,
right?
Because again, when I'm reading when I read a deck, I want to take the intent. I want to see what they have incorporated in here, and I see all the. And I never used the Crowley, but what I noticed now that we're talking about is that I see all those red lines. Yeah. So look at these red lines.
Yeah. There's a lot of interference going on.
That is a brainstorm right there. Yeah. That is it.
Let me show my
go for it.
Here. So these were the
So that's why I was interpreting this as a brainstorm, where it's like we have a strong desire to do something, but we understand there's going to be there's an emotional consequence. It says we can't always get what we want.
We can't always get what you want, but sometimes you just might get what you need. But yeah, this was my 3-card spread there, with the adjustment in the middle, and the Eight of Swords being the interference on one side, and the Queen of Cups being the control on the other.
Yep.
But yeah, like Jamie said, it's all poetry.
It's poetry. That's how I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter.
Right.
It's like it's just poetry to me.
And I'm just like, the creative, intuitive artist, and I just see things and then both ways are right.
Yeah, nobody's ever wrong. So, and especially if you're learning, it's like, don't let anybody tell you that's not what that means.
Of course not.
So anyway.
Yeah, no.
We're definitely out of time now.
Out of time. Oh, we're overtime. We're in overtime.
We're in overtime now. So, Michael, thank you.
Of course.
That was
always.
So, yeah. So I guess we're next going to be doing the Hermit next week.
So, number 9.
Number nine. So, and I'm looking forward to that, and I hope somebody gets something out of this. If nothing else, again, it's just a lot of fun because I can't wait to see Michael's deck.
Yes.
I mean,
He's already seen parts of it.
So I can't wait till you see Michael's deck.
Yeah.
And how, these conversations hopefully, help to influence or help him in some way.
Absolutely. Every time we get together, we bounce off and
something new comes up.
I value all our talks.
And again, this has kept our marriages, kept our spouses, kept our partners at our side, so they don't have to hear us talk about this. So, all right. Well, with that, thank you very, very much.
We'll see you next week.